This week we'll be talking about how to make money off-grid and how you can avoid making some of the terrible financial mistakes that I've made along the way. Welcome back to the Freedom Farm. It's 38 degrees here today, and after a busy weekend with lots of guests, now I'm hiking up to the Freedom Farm yurt to clean toilets and change beds. The reason I'm telling you this is because I think it's important that you get to see behind the scenes of how an off-grid homestead is kept up and running. We all have dreams of living this simple life, of growing our own food, of giving up money, but without adequate planning, the reality can be more of a nightmare than a dream. There's two things I've learned the hard way since moving off-grid almost 4 years ago. The first one is that you can never really escape society. The second one is that society will never allow you to really opt out of the monetary system. You still need to pay your taxes in cash, and as I explained in my last video, you can't buy car insurance with pairs. If, like me, you're more of an idealist and an optimist, you may end up in the unenviable position of living in a remote rural area with little or no local economy in the middle of a global recession and a pandemic. And not only do you have to chop your own wood, haul your own water and grow your own food, but you need to make an income as well. Suddenly your fantasy of living a rural idyllic life has morphed into a penny pinching, number crunching, precarious existence that's actually not much better than the life you had on grid. How do I know all of this? Well, it happened to me. I moved to my off-grid paradise in 2018 thinking I had plenty of money, that I was about to retire. And within 6 months I had spent all my money. I was flat broke, desperately trying to liquidate my remaining assets, and I had no idea what was around the corner for me. My partner Nicholas was actually diagnosed with cancer a year after we arrived here, and about 3 months after that the COVID-19, the global pandemic, hit. And so any chances that we thought that we might have of making money while we were here went down the drain. But 4 years later, I'm still here, and if you follow my advice, you may be able to avoid financial ruin and some of the terrible mistakes that I've made along the way. Step number 1, reduce your expenses. The best way to make more money is actually to spend less money. If you can reduce your expenses by 10%, at the end of the year, you'll have 10% more money in your bank account. And if you can do this every year for 5 years, then your financial success will be in the bag. But the real question is, how do you actually do this? How do you realistically reduce your expenses? Well, if you're doing it right, slowly your homestead will start to pay for itself. As an example, by the 2nd year of keeping goats, I was able to sell enough goat's cheese to my family, my friends and my neighbors to cover the cost of their feed. But if your homestead paying for itself is your only financial plan, then you are living in fantasy land, and eventually you will slowly run out of money until your project fails. The most effective way to reduce your expenses is to radically reevaluate what you think you need. Adopt a philosophy of buy it for life. So when you get a new pair of jeans or a new tool for the garden, you have to convince yourself that this is the last time you will ever buy these jeans or this tool, and that is the last one that exists on earth. And by adopting this buy it for life philosophy, you can get out of a mindset of consumerism, of spending money, and that is the best way that you can reduce your expenses. Tip number 2 is become more efficient. Eliminate waste. Now, I could try and explain it to you, but Ben Hartman does such a great job in his book, The Lean Farm. So unless you're a millionaire, in which case, why are you watching this video? I recommend that you read this book, The Lean Farm by Ben Hartman, before you go off grid, because it's going to save you so much blood, sweat, and tears. In this book, you're going to learn all about a Japanese philosophy of organization and efficiency and how to apply it to your homestead. Shout out, thank you so much to Ben for bringing us this knowledge and teaching the children. You've helped us so much on our homestead, and you won't regret buying this book. Okay, so we've learned about not spending any money and also how to eliminate waste. But what about actually catching that cash? Well, my advice to you would be get a business or a job going, get it started before you go off grid. Something that you can transition easily to your new life, to your homestead, but one that's going to bring you an income and keep you financially stable. But if the idea of working for the man doesn't appeal for you, you might want to consider becoming a small business owner or an entrepreneur. And there are loads of jobs that you can do online. For example, you can teach English or other languages online. You can work as a phone chat operator, both jobs that require very little investment to get started. I met a lady recently who lives in her camper van, and she's an online tarot card reader. Perhaps you can develop a product that you can sell online or in person at a local market. It could be something unique that you make. For example, since I've been off grid, I've sold plants, seeds, dried flowers, eggs, milk, cheese, olive oil, drinks, hot and cold dinners, lessons, handmade shoes, even homemade jewelry, cosmetics. Every little bit helps. And diverse income streams, it kind of makes you a bit more resilient to disasters like the pandemic. I used to sell a lot of jewelry. I went to a lot of markets, and when the pandemic came, those markets all closed down, but I was able to shift some of my business online and still make a little bit of money that way. Every time I come in here, I feel so lucky and privileged. This is a beautiful 6-meter Mongolian yurt with the best view in town. It's good to be out of the sun. Here we are in the beautiful Freedom Farm yurt. If you don't like the idea of working at the computer, it might be an option for you to consider cashing in on your off-grid property. The tourism potential is really limitless, especially since people have been stuck inside for all this time because of the lockdown and the pandemic, and now they're all dying to come outside. Initial investment costs can be high, but your income potential is strong. A beautiful Mongolian yurt like this can set you back 10,000 euros easily, but it's money well spent because people will be banging on your door for the opportunity to stay somewhere as beautiful and unique as this. If you don't fancy the idea of doing an Airbnb, there are still plenty of other options. For example, you could start a farm school, a petting zoo, pick your own vegetables market garden. The only thing I would say is make sure you're not breaking any of the local laws. Depending on where you live, they might not be so friendly for tourism. The last thing on today's list is think about starting your own YouTube channel. Be on social media, have Instagram, create beautiful content that people like. Like I said, the whole world has been stuck inside during a lockdown, and now they're all desperate for a bit of fresh air, outdoorsy, farm life fun, and you could be the one that gives it to them. For an example, let's look at the Indie Project. They've made some very successful careers out of simply documenting their journey. There's a lot of skill involved in running your own media empire. At the same time, they're not doing anything crazy. They're not jumping out of airplanes, they're not eating live scorpions or walking over hot coals. All they're doing is being genuine, authentic versions of themselves, documenting their journey. And I think that they can be an inspiration to all of us as to what can be achieved by simply being on social media. Becoming a social media mogul is definitely a long game. I haven't made a single penny from any of my videos. So from that, you can extrapolate that even the most genuine and charming YouTube creators don't find success overnight. But even if you never become mega rich Instagram celebrity, at least you've had a good time making this beautiful content, and maybe you even make a few nice friends along the way. So, before I die from heat exhaustion, let's wrap up this video with a quick summary. I haven't had new underpants in over 5 years. I've reorganized my life around a Japanese philosophy of organization and efficiency. My poor husband has to teach English to extremely reluctant Spanish children. I will sell literally anything that isn't nailed down, and I work my fingers to the bone night and day, growing, sowing, planting, harvesting, trimming, pruning, mowing, harvesting, foraging, cooking, canning, and I do it all whilst being a well-dressed and charismatic social media influencer with a YouTube annual revenue of €0. So, if you've enjoyed taking financial advice from someone who can barely maintain their own financial solvency, then I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment and tell me what you think, or maybe even just a like. And most importantly, have a great day.